All right. Welcome back to another beautiful episode of Obinna Show Live. We are really grateful and we are humbled to have your presence on this show. Thank you so much for subscribing and thank you for creating time to watch and thank you for buying bundles. Okay, tumejua ni wifi ya jirani, but yeah, you get the point. So asanteni sana. Of course, this platform, motivational conversation, inspirational conversation, and sometimes like today, we'll have a couple of intriguing conversations because of the matter at hand. The country meshiko bowls. Okay, I tried to look for a better word to put it, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So asanteni sana karibuni. The gentleman I'm hosting on this platform today, I like him a lot. The reason is this. One, he's very passionate about what he does, which is music. I've seen a couple of clips of him in action. I'm like, yo, I'm seeing Elvis Presley right here. The vibe that is over here. I'm seeing Michael Jackson. Mama say, Marcus. I'm seeing the vibe. You look at someone perform, you're like, wow, I want to be that guy. Then the way he dresses, you guys know me. When someone dresses amazing, I sit them down, tell them, yo, show me your ways, master. He has a specific style of dressing, of which I'll find out which it is, but it looks dope. Yona burale, wanapelekana hapa. Okay? Then also, Juicy, when we were rejecting the finance bill, he was, let me say, was pivotal in the whole execution of the way it happened. He was among the key people. Wale shine kwa the whole thing to go like, oh, we look at this face. Inaweza kaka ile face ya ni Che Guevara ama ni Ke Guevara ama how do you say it? Inaweza kaka flag hiyo nywele yake nini inaweza ketomboya vibe ya kuna pia hiyo. And he has the most Luo name. Wanasema after Miguna. It's called McOure. Kasmuel McOure, ladies and gentlemen. It's Kasmuel. Kasmuel.
Yes, Kasmuel McOure.
So si Kasmuel? Where's the K? Muchenji yo. Why do people say Kasmuel?
I don't know. I think it's just banter.
Oh, so it's Kasmuel.
Kasmuel McOure, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
It has a meaning.
Yes.
I mean, it's a name of like a freedom fighter in Djibouti.
That's my grandfather. Wengine wakiachiwa land and money, mimi niachiwa jina akasema Yathina, I bequeath this upon you. Take this, go and conquer them. Give me a name that instills fear in my enemy's eyes.
Ujana, when you want to party, I'm saying you get knighted.
Yes.
Samuel McOure. You shall grow to have an afro.
Correct.
You shall grow to Pigaluku because I don't have no land.
Correct. Not giving you no money.
Yeah, we got nothing. But a good name is better than. You know that saying?
Yes.
That's a lie, guys. Your good name is better than you find whiskey. You what? Give me the money.
What do you mean? Call me Brian.
Take the name. Let me be nameless.
Right.
But I'm a have wow.
Wow.
Karibu, bro. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I've seen a video of you doing.
Right.
And I was like, yo, that's fire.
Right.
And then the dressing code.
Right.
Okay, I'm not saying have the band our Jiku.
Wait,
so initially, even me, they're my people. Initially, have the band mulikuwa mnachoma.
Yes.
But kuna time naulizanga nikwambia, yo guys, I know this our style, you know it's authentic. I'm like, come on, man. Come on, bro. Wanavaa kama lepers.
Hey.
Then wakakama wakachange. Siku hizo wanapiga luku.
Mbaya. Kama nyoka kwa simiti.
Siku hizo kina nani wanapiga luku mbaya. So the band hapo. Endeleeni kutembea na Sauti Sol. Lakini si sana. Kuna hizo makolombo bia na ameanza kuvaa. Naona nani alimpatia ile ya kuvaa hiyo design.
Mbona kila mtu anakata
ule how long should I wait for your love? Little mama. You know who? I didn't mention no names. Don't want to be
nafikiri unasema nani ule mse wa JK. I don't know. Who are you talking about? That? I don't know who you're talking about.
Ule karanga nywele?
Me,
I'm not talking about nobody.
I don't know who you're talking about.
I didn't mention that.
I don't know.
But it's fine. Yo, ebu munisaidie na serviette hapo tafadhali. I'm sweating. And I sweat. Sasa unajua amevaa duvet.
Don't talk about it, man.
Bro, I like your dressing style.
Thank you, sir.
It's fire.
Asante.
How do you define this? Because hii suti kama hii.
Right.
Iko na.
Yes, I think for me it's my suits are rooted in the classic tradition.
Oh,
just
okay.
the kawaida, plain, clean cut. very full suits.
Okay.
They're very roomy, a lot of my suits, because just the classic tailoring.
Okay.
Yeah, so in just Western classic tradition, you have your pleats on your trousers, even the fabric and whatnot.
Okay. Why do you dress like that?
Hey, Maze, I grew up wearing very horrible clothes. And I said the moment I would be able to afford. And to me,
ni revenge.
I need revenge. By the way, nakuva nayo. Sina, this one is not. And I've worn suits, even campus. Nilikuwa nazishikanisha tu. There are very horrible photos of me out there. And people have
Guys, we need receipts. Do the thing.
Someone resurrect a video. I'm like, hey. So I used to shikanisha because when I was growing up, I had either very baggy shirts and sijui shorts. Nikasema nikiweza, because for me, suits looked like the epitome. They looked like the thing I wanted to wear. I was like, the moment I can afford it like this,
you gonna know.
Every damn day.
You gonna learn today.
Absolutely.
Unatoanga suti sangapi?
Siku ikiisha.
Siku yako inaisha sangapi?
It's either I'm in a suit or in the birthday suit. Hakuna sijui in between. Hapo is consistently. Hakuna in between stand.
Hawezi chila ka t-shirt ka kinyasa random days hizi kupata na ka t-shirt.
Sina random days bado. This is still revenge trauma. Pole.
So suti birthday suit blanketi.
Birthday suit blanketi.
Umeilala na suti?
To be fair, nimewailala na suti. But hey, it's such an uncomfortable experience. Unajua kilala kwa wenyewe.
Unakama iti.
Kama mwanaume. Siku hivyo. Nairobi unalala kwa wenyewe pale ulipi rent unalala tu kama
lala kama mizigo.
Uko tu hivi.
And the afro?
Right. I mean, it's just always been, again, because I went to 2 high schools. It's a thing which has just been bringing a lot of division.
Okay.
So when I went to, because I finished in Maranda High School.
Awesome. Maranda?
Yes, I went to Maranda High School.
Okay. Watch an serious people are in the building. I think that's where you get your English from. Bro, your English is also...
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first high school I went to, which was Alliance, was... It was pretty much, I feel like if I were to...
Pause. Samuel. Kasmuel.
Yes.
Don't just mention alliances, by the way. Yeah, usiangushe hivyo, unaweka na bold, italics, and then una underline.
All right.
Yasema, I went to Alliance. Like when I was in Alliance.
I was at the Alliance High School.
Yeah, now we understand.
You know, people say Alliance boys. There's no boys' school. There's a girls' school, yes, but it's Alliance High School for the boys. However, in Bush, the culture was very, like
What's
there
Bush?
You met Bush's Alliance. You met the who's who. Hiyo ulikuwa unaingia hivi. Nakumbuka mimi niliingia shule with box, tumeshikanisha vitu. My mom had to suggestionisha the shorts. Tukonaita hizo shorts cabbages because of the color. And I'm wondering, how is everyone getting these things from? Was it Shaw Outfitters? And like that, the who's who, wamekuja hapo wamepatiwa fanyiwa shopping because we were allowed to come with food and whatnot. Snacks, a radio, ironing box. You could have a laptop, whatever it is.
Oh, wow.
And then if you carried your phone by mistake, you could keep it with a teacher. You know, those kinds of things.
Oh, you carried your phone by mistake.
Yeah. I used to hear these stories from other schools. I'm like, hey, wako strict. Anyway, so Bush was very... And now, on the weekend, we wore home clothes. Again, now that, as a person who was suffering from like severe insecurity, all these kinds of things, it used to be quite complicated to see, hey, at a weekend, what wanatesa and whatnot. So when I went to Maranda was the great equalizer. Huko haijalishi wewe ni mtoto wa minister, wewe ni mtoto wa nini, everyone, you either wore shirts maybe yellow, green, white during the years I was there, and we used to shave our hair bald. There's a clip of me that somebody found nikiwa great debaters. Nilikuwa na kunywa wasichana Kisumu na nakaa hivi, nakaa kama yeye. Kama saa hizi personally and tusi bien. Nina kuna pesa. Nilikuwa kidonda. Mimi nilikuwa kidonda hiyo. It was so crazy maze. Viva to anyone who ever gave me attention in high school. But like, so we used to shave. Nilikuwa nakaa kiberiti ijatumika. It was so crazy. Right. You know, na nimekaa hapo niko hapo napiga kizungu mbaya. So that was also part of it. So since high school, we shaved our heads bald. I think after high school, I was just like, I want to grow this thing out, see how far it goes. And then now, you know, everything now, the afro plus the suits aligned, and people just told me like I look like a person from, you know, way back when. But also what that did to me, because coming back to Nairobi, of course, I was born in Nairobi, and then we went to family things happened, then we went to Nakuru, then post-election violence displaced us to Ravine, then someplace in Rongo, then Magadi Soda, then I went back to Nakuru, then Kisumu eventually,
traveled.
then back to Nairobi. So in coming back, I realized that for you to get ahead, if you looked as if you wore a suit, people somehow...
Like you have your shit together.
You know, yeah. They kind of assumed it. The adults around you, like, they gave me a bit more grace. I mean, skip classes and whatnot. I remember there's a lecturer of mine. We used to kutana on the roads, because I went to Tuk as well. We'd kutana, he'd wave, like, it was cool. Then one time, in the exam, I didn't even know, because there's a class I used to chronically skip, insurance. Like, I don't know what I'm doing in this class. So I've gone for the exam, and he brings the paper. He's like, even you are a student? What do you mean you're a student? I was like, mwalimu. So he had never seen me in class. So it was one of those things. So the combination of the suits was just from bad dressing as a child. I never could get the cool clothes. Me sikupata Supra, when Supra were things, Timberlands, when people were wearing skinny jeans. Alafu unajua mazee sijui ni SDA. That's a straight and narrow mazee.
Oh, wow, okay.
The whole thing, you know. So now after getting out, I was just like, I'll wear good suits. And because I was shaving bald, I was like, I'll grow out my hair.
So you're doing the direct opposite of how you were raised.
The exact opposite of what it is that I went through as a growing up experience.
It fits you.
Yeah,
it fits you.
Asante.
The accent.
Right.
Or the intonation. Or the pronunciation.
Right.
Or the diction.
Yeah.
Alliance, Miranda, Ama.
A lot of people actually think I studied. People ask me if I've traveled. But
I wanted to ask you the same thing.
I'm not well traveled. I've just...
No, you're well traveled. Ravine, Rongo, Migori. You're well traveled.
All right. Cho, Bafu sitting room, Cho sitting room, Jikondi. But I've done a few countries in Africa. Okay. But I think my father was he was my first teacher. And he was very strict about getting information because he got retrenched when I was a baby. And he used to have a bookshop. So mainly kula stock. I think that's what I would blame it on.
Leleo kwa library.
Walileta tu stock nyumbani, and I was like, might as well read these things, because we also did not have television or radio growing up. But my mom was the person who I feel taught me whatever, these like big words or enunciation and those kinds of things, because she's very well spoken. So that's where I got it, and from reading. So in my head, from very early, when I was in primary school, I was doing diphthongs. So you see the way they write those, in the dictionary, when you open it, you find a word, and then they write the pronunciation. A lot of people didn't know, wow, what is this thing, what, and the what. So that's what I used to study. So I was very deliberate about it. Again, as a child, the thing which I always was given was unikierere, because I was very curious as a child. I absolutely want to know what is all this about the sciences, what's all this about these other things. And in primary school, I was one of those kids whose interests would be featured in like golden tips and whatnot. Because I actually started out with Swahili. And I read a very complicated book, Alfulela Ulela. It's the 1001 Arabian Nights, which has Akina Alibaba and the 40 Thieves inside, and Akina Sinbad and whatnot. I read it in Swahili. So my grasp of Swahili was very good. Swahili and French as a baby, until Kiswahili was not cool anymore. And then tulikuwa tunaanza kuvalishwa discs and whatnot. Now English became the thing. So I don't know how to do a thing and just be average about it. I usually, when I say if I'm studying a thing, I study it kabisa.
Fully.
Yeah, so with that and a lot of, because I'm a speed reader as well, so I would consume so much knowledge. By the time I was getting to high school, where people who are very well read and people who grew up with TV, they would say words that I had read but had never heard. So we were at par, but we were at par because I had read a lot. Yes, so now with culture and those kinds of things. And I also had like very good teachers. There was a teacher called Mr. Mushiri, who was very deliberate about his pronunciation. Growing up, there was Miss Angela, which is an ironic name because recently I've been in a tiff with a person called Angela. And
we're going to be talking about Angela later on the show.
Mr. Wainaina, there was a Mr. Omingo. So consistently I found teachers who were very deliberate about Mr. Aguyo, very deliberate about how they spoke and how they wrote. So my handwriting is also fairly decent, and my speech. So I owe it to collective effort, not necessarily to travel or anything. Yes.
Your brothers, your siblings?
Yes, I
do.
They
also talk the way you talk?
Kind of.
Niaje, bro, I want us to go to town to Shereke. No, I'm just saying the
diction, I would
sound and the diction.
My girl, my niece talks like that. My niece now talks like me. and our last one, because we are the same personality. But the rest of them are pretty chill. They're what you would have as your typical Kenyans.
Okay.
They don't like the limelight. They don't like whatever it is.
Okay.
And they're just regular chill people.
What is your stronghold in high school? The subject that you...
Hey, bro, music and languages. Music, languages, and a bit of sciences.
Okay.
Because then I also, when I found music was a saving grace because I didn't start it as a child. I started it in high school. Yeah, so I delved kabisa, and then there's even a time when a teacher was like, your son, Mr. Ure, does not pass because he studies. He passes because he's talented. It's my late teacher of English, Miss Marete. And it's one of those things I would have had a better experience if somebody told me just go to high school as a social experience, because eventually it would have worked out. My math was absolutely horrible. Math na CRE ndio ziliniharibia certificate ya KCSE.
Pendi Yesu.
Nilipata, I got a B+ in CRE and I got a B in math.
Hiyo ni kuanguka.
Niliuma nje. Ningepata straight A bana.
Wacha nisionge mambo yangu ya hesabu hapa since watu walianguka wakipata B. Do you know the best subject that I performed? I got a... Okay.
Twende. Daudi Msalaba.
Sikuwa mbaya sana hivyo.
Sikuwa mbaya.
Yeah, sikuwa mbaya sana hivyo. But I was somewhere there.
Be yourself. Right.
Hey, oh wow.
Yes.
So with B you feel like you could have done better.
I most definitely could have done better, but high school was a rough experience. And I know if I had finished at Alliance, I would have done much worse. Because there was a lot of inferiority complex with that high school experience. Because remember, if you're coming from a poor background, you get into an environment where someone asks, how many of you are number one? How many of you are head boys? How many of you are number one in their county? How many of you are prefects? So all of it's like a collection of geniuses, and it's super, super concentrated.
That's competitive.
It messes up with you. And then you find the silent geniuses. I feel like in theory, I'll say something that's kidogo problematic. But the Calais friends I had in Bush, that's the attitude I would have loved to have. Because these guys came, they were like, sisi tumekuja kusoma. Found subjects like electricity or French, wakararua too. They didn't care that the other people were doing this, that the other people were being dropped in big cars, those kinds of things. But me nilikuwa hapo, unfortunately it got to me. I was like, I wouldn't even go for bursaries. Alliance was so crazy because you would get, at almost every assembly, a teacher would come and be like, Isuzu is offering 16 scholarships. Equity wants to sponsor these people. Whatever bank wants to do this. This organization wants to do this. But I felt like scholarships were the things for poor people. And so I didn't go for a scholarship. So I made my parents suffer because of my inferiority. Nobody had told me that it's not okay to be poor. Because, we grow up in a world which glorifies riches and whatnot. And how do you reconcile you being such an extroverted personality and you're still poor? So in my head, it didn't make sense. How are you supposed to impress with the girls or to be with the cool kids of the group? And yes, and you're still poor. So I had a fitting in problem.
I don't need bursary.
Hey.
My dad is good.
Yes.
Lakini juku unajua ukiambia dad itamsaidia sana. Dad ako retrenched.
Ameweka mahindi mbaya, anataka kulipa hii stuff in kind. Anasema nataka nitaleta mahindi kilo 30. Ama maharagwe. Nataka hata kuleta mifugo, lakini mimi nalenga bursary, so it was crazy.
Kama kuna mfugo moja ndani nasoma hapo.
Bazi, ameweka mbuzi, hata mvua hizi threaten kunyesha.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right.
So Alliance has that.
Alliance had that. Of course, it's kind of been watered down with
people.
The 6
No, but I think it's an individual thing. There are people who just have that inferiority complex, where when you go where other people, you struggle to fit in, you don't want to identify the way.
Right.
Like myself, in high school, I was the villager.
Right.
Me as the mse wa village, mimi sikuwa boy wa Nairobi.
Yes.
Tunatoka Nairobi, tunatoka Kayole.
Right.
Wow.
Uko ni wapi?
Tunatoka Oyole, tunatoka Lakisama Buda. Mimi ni wa Kibich. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
Mimi ni wa village, mimi sijaenda Nairobi.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, and I owned it.
Right.
Even when I came to Nairobi, even now, me, I was the people. I'm from the village.
Right.
Bro, me, I was not born here.
Yes.
Me, I'm a village boy, bred in the village.
Yes.
I came here as a street boy.
Right.
Then I worked my way.
Right.
So somehow I never had that thing for, I didn't have that thing for, I have to fit in. I've never, and even my friends, I never fit in. I'm always the guy who stands out.
Right.
Oh, you guys having alcohol? I don't. Nipatieni Fanta Orange, niko drama festival. Yeah, it's funny, ha. But nakunywa Fanta Orange yangu.
Yes.
Oh, you guys want to smoke some weed?
Right.
To have fun.
Right.
I'm not, no, wacha pia mimi nifanye ndio.
Right.
So I think it's more of an individual thing.
It was an individual thing, but also it's very, it's one of those stories which you tell and it's in a sound kama to story Jabba, in a sound to cat GPT, because I was born in Nairobi. I was born in Mata.
Yeah.
And my folks were living in Umo at the time. And then
Life was decently okay.
Yes, and now my dad loses his job, and we moved to Karen. So you see that part of the story, when someone says Karen, you're like, what do you mean? But we moved into a Kamabati house because, you know, we lived in the barracks over here.
Oh.
And then the rich people, Akina Nani, I don't want to mention names, but even the guy for CBK used to live along that road. But then there's a place where their workers kind of used to live.
Oh, it's like a small ghetto, like a slum.
It's
in
like
between.
a tiny slum with maybe 15, 20 houses. Kadogo tu hivi, small houses, and then
Magadena manini getman wana.
Yes, yetu ni hapo mwisho. It was like a mabati house, had a kitanda, couch, meza yenye kona hizo vitu hapo. That's all. Did all my assignments on my lap. My dad was reminding me this thing. I'm like, look how far we've come. It's absolutely decent. So when you say this is where you grew, people don't let you say that. Oh, you know, he was in Karen, but he was in a. When people hear Karen, it's just the expectation has already been set.
True.
So that was a personal thing. I'm not saying that it was imposed to me because it's people who went to Bush and did quite well. It's people who went and were grateful for the experience. Because if you went there and you're grateful for the experience, if I just went there and said, hey, I'm just going to be myself and go through this, it was going to be one of the best experiences that I ever had. Yeah.
And there are people who also fell off the wagon.
Absolutely.
There are people who also brought from good families.
No, absolutely.
And they didn't do well.
Absolutely.
Parents are like, what's wrong with you?
Yes.
And you can't even explain. It's an individual thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's come to another thing we've done the school part, we've done this. Now, your talent.
Right.
You've said you discovered it more in high school.
Yes.
So in Bush or
Yes.
in
Bush.
in Maranda
In Bush
or in Bush,
specifically.
their music club is huge.
It was nice, but it's the first place where I'd gone and I was allowed to touch a piano. Kitambo unajua ulikuwa unaenda church and I go to a conservative church. Your keyboard is the most prized possession. Usikose hiyo kitu watoto watoke hapo. You know. Yeah. And so when I got here, this one time I've gotten there and it was supposed to be prep time, but I was in the chapel and I was playing and nobody's chasing me. I was like, this is my thing. I learned the piano, I learned the trumpet, the saxophone, violin, all these instruments. Any instrument I found in Bush, I learned how to play. And I lied to get into the band. I said, in my primary school, I used to be a drum major. But I'd gone for a camp and I'd heard how people play that drum. And I was like, I was like, yes, so that's what. And so I was a baby, like maybe this one, but I have that big bass drum. So I started by playing bass drum. Yeah, and then now I morphed into the music. But also it offered me the safe space. Because you know the music does not judge you. When you sit on the piano, whatever you give it, if you give it joy, it gives you back joy. If you give it sadness, it gives you back sadness. So it mirrors, but it mirrors without judgment. And so I dedicated hours. Part of what got me into trouble is I would skip class. I would dunk class kabisa just to go and get the inner workings of music. And again, now I've gotten to the point where now I can make music for myself. Because remember, growing up, hakukuwa na TV. And then the one time my folks bought a TV, mwizi akakam sijui 1 week later. I hate it, man. Akakam, nilikuwa narudi nyumbani nasikiza this station, man. And no shade. Nilikuwa nasikiza station fulani inaitwa Jesus is Lord Radio. Nilikuwa tapa violin. Nilikuwa nasikiza hizo vitu nasikia the Lord is coming soon, and I'm not making fun, I promise. And so for a long time I used to be one of those babies who would walk around with a Bible hata kwa urinal nilikuwa najua. And if you've had any of Dr. Ward's teaching, unajua mazee Yesu anakam kesho kutwa. So niko class 4, class 5 mazee nilikuwa naambia wase kuna also ilisaidia kusoma Biblia. So yeah. So nikafika hapa nikasema it's time for me to do it.
You know, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I was brought up as Jehovah's Witness.
20. Are you serious?
Bro, my whole childhood, me, I was preaching.
Yes.
I've read the Bible studies cover to cover. I know the scriptures.
Yes.
I know what's right.
Right.
I know what's wrong. I lived by the book until when I was in Nairobi. When I met my first baby mama, I was like, wait a minute.
Ukasema
the congregation ain't here. I'm a little did I know the firstborn son. I'm like, what? They warned me about this thing. The scripture was right. These are they're called the fruits of the flesh.
Of the flesh.
Yeah, but this is the Galatians.
Yes.
It's
the last of the flesh.
Yes. Galatians, I think chapter 5. I'm like, what? So when you're talking about working the Bible, I'm like,
I was that
was my childhood
kid, bro. And for me it was so, because I used to even fast specifically. I used to, like I had like days and I'm in primary school. I was very staunch. Also, you know, I was top of my class most of the time. So nobody would call me out necessarily. I also think I was pushed towards that side because of a traumatic thing that happened to me in Primo. I got sexually assaulted by some older guys. And so that one, I was just like, I cannot go into street playing football or doing these kinds of things, but I can immerse myself into this book that is a consistent thing of learning. So Kabisa, I got into spirituality. I was learning about I was the one who was teaching guys about the occult, the second those things like they were here. Even when I got to Bush, that was the thing people knew me for first. Before now, of course, I decided to delve into music and those other kinds of things. Yeah, so it became the thing. And then it didn't help that I was one of those kids who would dream and then it comes in the paper. It's one of those weird things that usually happen to me where I think about a thing or I dream. I rarely dream, but when I dream, those things come true. Kabisa, and I think it's really messed up. People usually say, oh, you need to tap into it, evangelicals, of course. But I'm like, oh, I don't know. So it's one of those kinds of things. So it got to like, hey, in the last days, their sons will dream dreams and their old men will see visions, I mean, I kind of laughed it off, but like there's been very significant things that I dreamt about.
Mine is different.
Right.
I don't really dream, then they come to be. But mine is like, I get ideas when I'm sleeping.
Yes.
For example, I'll get an exam room.
Yes.
Go through the papers.
Yes. Yes.
I'll write my name.
Yes.
Answer 2-3 ones that I've seen.
Yes.
Then I'll take a power nap.
Yes.
Bro, when I wake up like this,
yes,
I have all the formulas and everything. And even in life, I always have something. Someone tells me, I'm like, give me some time, let me.
Yes.
Then if I'll take a power nap, I'll wake up with solutions.
Right.
Like strategy. I'll
yes.
be like, yes, now we need to do this.
Yes.
Like I'll see the whole thing.
Right.
But this one particularly, we don't know. Okay. What was it that you dreamt and it came to be?
For me, one, there's this time which, and again, this is why I'm usually kind of slow at calling out all these people who claim that, you have powers of healing and of sijui.
You're saying you have powers?
No. I'm saying like the people who usually claim that they have powers, like the pastors. I'm usually a bit slow to condemn because one time in primary school, this happened in primary school, I was also like a very devout, prayerful kid. And there's a friend of mine who used to cough so badly. And he used to be bullied, and I just hated the fact that we laughed at him because he was also very frail. Yeah. And this one time, wako like, hey, ameanza kukohoa katikati ya usiku, we can't go to call the matron and whatnot. But they knew me, I was the prayer guy. Kasema msa anakohoa. Kaenda nikaekelea Nobe mkono kwa kifua, and I prayed, and Nobe slept peacefully till morning. This one time I dreamt about an exam I'd not studied for. This is of course I've not been studying for exams. But this particular one I dreamt about, it was a chem paper. Saw the paper in the dream, went into the exam room, nikapata to the exact same questions. Another thing, like it's a couple of these things. Up until very recently, I told my pals, the last one was in 2022, and that's why I don't want to talk about it because it's the thing I'm fighting now. I remember telling my friends that the Thursday before the elections, before we went for elections, I told my friends that I've had a very disturbing dream and William Ruto is going to be president. Now, wakacheka wakasema kabisa. And I even remember when I went to the ballot box, I had a thing really disturbing me. Because unajua people were voting 6-piece and whatnot. And I was just like, So I spoiled my presidential vote. But then he won. That's why even when I saw the thing the first time, I was like, I called my friends, I told them, you remember, it's always those kinds of things. Even in terms of friendships, relationships, those kinds of things, they come to me and I'm just like, oh yeah, interesting.
Dream about your girlfriends?
Not necessarily about my girlfriends, but about even friends who would betray me. Yeah. So it's one of those.
Bro.
It's one of those.
Joseph had the same thing.
I never any time, and that's why I never talk about it, because when I talk about it, people try to like they ascribe it. People ascribe it to spirituality, and I feel like I'm afraid to step into whatever that thing is because they got to like I'm not the most spiritual anymore. Of course, at a personal level, I still study, I still pray, but I'm at the point of interrogation and whatnot. But it's difficult. But then also, very interestingly, people have come to me and said that they have things about me where they're like, oh yeah, whatever it is that this calling of yours is going to be very lonely. It will be forced to retreat. Like people say like super accurate things about me, and I'm like, listen, it's not that deep. Endo manifesto kombali. But like it's one of those things for I never really get into depth.
You had a dream about someone who will betray you.
Yes.
You saw you are Judas.
No, absolutely,
like a
bro.
Jesus, one of you.
I was just not as dramatically, but it's like.
What was the story?
Yeah,
Just don't mention the name.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I even see the guy right now.
The Judas anatuwatch saizi na 30 bob zake.
Hata kulipwa.
Wewe alifanya pro bono.
Kulipwa. Mazi exposure. Yeah, so it's even very recently, with the recent goings on in the country, someone just like bullied my baby sister. It's apparently a friend, one of my circles. And my sister told me, we jua tu umezungukwa na manyoka. And I told him, unaongelea nani? And she just started crying. This is not a person who had met or nini. I just thought about this person. I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's usually those kinds of things where I'll just fall asleep and I'm disturbed. I wake up disturbed and it's a particular name that's ringing in my head. Yeah, so it's not that deep. Yeah. For me, I don't want to think about it as that deep, but everybody usually says, there could be something there, but yeah.
It's a decision.
Yeah.
It's a decision. And also when it will happen,
right?
You know, they always say if God intends it to happen,
it will.
You will have your nini, then you'll come back
Yes. But I'm not intending to be a pastor.
You don't have to be.
I will not be.
You don't have to pastor.
Right.
But there are different ways that you can minister.
No, absolutely.
You know, even your own life is a ministry.
No,
like the people look at you and they're like, yo.
Yeah.
This guy, I like the way he dresses, and because they change the way they dress,
yes,
now they're at the right place at the right time, and they avoid a lot of other unnecessary.
No, absolutely.
See, wewe ni ngumu sahi polisi amenena kwambie, kijana,
yes,
kuja paka chini kama umesimama.
No, for sure.
Wapi bangi? But if you dress in a certain way, kuna mwiza pita pa kijana. So it's nobody else how you.
No, absolutely.
So you can minister to people differently. Sometimes you minister through your music, because you know music is also spiritual.
Oh, for me it's a very spiritual experience.
Music is spiritual,
kabisa. And even if you see me on stage, I usually tell people I never know what's happening. It's a thing that takes over me, and I can't explain like the inner workings of whatever it is. When I'm on stage, a different thing. It's almost as if I'm possessed. Yeah, so it's a spiritual experience.
Did you see that in your visions?
No,
your music career, you now?
No, I never
saw it.
So that's the other thing where I never, again, you know, I've also always never been excited for a long life. Huh? Yes, because I've consistently been struggling with like my mental health ever since I was a teenager, ever since whatever traumatic incident happened to me. Consistently, I was just like, make it end. So I always dreaded becoming older. And so it got to a point where I was dabbling with everything, like anything that would get me to die, I would try and take it. Sijui, if you go and, like, there's even a time, Sijui, I took sulfuric acid, tried to burn my nini, and my folks came to my home and prayed, and I etched suicide. Like, I was a very troubled teenager. So I never necessarily focused on the thing. But other people would just be like, oh yeah, you're going to be really great someday, you're going to be... But I was just like, what do you mean someday? I'm not interested in anything past what we are doing now. Yeah. So it's always, even when people ask me, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? I'm like, what do you mean? Hopefully resting. You know.
Hey, bro, okay, bro, now this is
Pole, you make money, you will go for therapy. I promise you. Yeah. This one, kila mtu na daktari wake. Kila mtu na daktari wake.
This thing we're talking about death, like you're looking for it.
And let me tell you, that is the craziest bit, because even just before we started this maandamano thing, it's a really sad thing that particular Friday, so we started the first demonstrations on Tuesday. That Friday, my friends found me on a rooftop, in a noose, unconscious, at the edge. Again, I'm afraid of heights, but I was at the edge of the building. So it's just like a friend who's very dear to me. And I was like, I don't want it to happen. But it's the second time where I tried like death by hanging. First time I was in high school, the camera broke in the school hall. I remember it was a prep time. I walked out, pretended I was going to the toilet, went to the school hall, tied the thing, ashamed. This time, this Friday night, it felt as if it was over. I was 10 floors up. I was like, oh yeah, tied the noose properly. And I was even, like, I drove around in the noose. I was like, oh, should I tie it to a tree and drive off? Like, it was one of those things. I've consistently struggled with these kinds of things. So it's not, it has never been a scary subject for me. It's not a thing that, oh, I'm a Jew and I say I'm afraid of it. It's almost as if it's a thing you're courting, you know. So I hear people say, oh, you know, past 30. I'm just like, oh yeah, that is too far. It's one of those kinds of things. But it's not a thing which I'm saying with pride. It's a thing which consistently also, you know, you're working, because there's nothing normal about it. There's nothing normal about not being enthusiastic about life and those kinds of things. But it's a thing that now I'm working on now with medication, with therapy, you know, those kinds of things, and with a healthy community, because that's the only way you can beat whatever demons you're going through.
Where? How old are you now?
27 in October.
And you've tried to commit suicide a number of times.
Yeah, consistently. I think it's been a recurrent theme. Of course, there were happy years. 2013, first proper attempt. Last year, twice I got into a bad accident, and then one was drug-induced. And then now...
What do you mean proper attempt?
Nasema, like the attempts which would have actually taken me out.
Okay. Is there something that triggers those moments?
Again, that's another thing which I would be explaining, because for that Friday, the way I saw it, the more recent one, because now, you know, as you grow, you start seeing patterns. Anytime those things have happened, life usually feels very final, because I remember there was also a lot of death around. I'd lost a friend had lost the mom. There was so much death around that period, but it didn't feel like it was not sadness, it was not a knee-jerk reaction, but I felt on that particular Friday, there's phone calls I made. I said, hey, you've been joking around with the work that we're doing, I'm not working with you. Hey, please stop whatever it is that you're doing. I started telling started telling my family, I love you, my friends, I'm like, oh yeah, can you squeeze in a minute, can we meet, those kinds of things. I should have seen it earlier in the day. So now I know that whenever I start feeling like, oh, you know, I'm missing my friends, probably get medication. Because I remember I drove into a hospital at midnight, because my friends, I think, found me at maybe 3 a.m. But at midnight, even as midnight, because I was saying, I feel like it's going. I went to listen to a choir singing, but they were practicing, so I didn't go in. I was like, oh yeah. Then I went to listen to a friend's band. And then now I went to a hospital, asked them, can I please see a doctor? I need this prescription, yes, but I also need to see a doctor because I'm not doing too well. Some hospital up with Ngong Road. And yeah, so they treated me just casually. And now I just went, and now I'm shaking and those kinds of things. I cannot say that it was a particular thing that triggered it, because I can't say that, gee, I'm going through heartbreak, I'm not. I can't say it's because I'm broke, all of us are broke. I can't say it's anything that was happening fundamentally that would have invited the thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so, Daktari, take it away, usijali.
Would you say that even when you were the Mandamano, you were looking to die?
Not necessarily.
But you were like, if it comes...
If it comes, it comes, yeah, and that's why I did it like absolutely fearlessly and boldly, as much as I could. Where it also felt as if it was in my head. Then I looked at it and we were talking with friends that were like, maybe it was a symbolic death. Whatever Friday was, it was the death of a different you, and this is a birth of a new you. So when I was doing it, I still felt, because remember, it starts in the period where you've not necessarily exited that suicidal space, you know. And I was like, if I'm gonna do this, let me do it with everything that I have. So absolutely, I was like, we are going in, and we are going in kabisa. This is my strength. This is what I'm bringing to the Mandamano. I have great energy. I can work a crowd. And I'm like, that's all I'm going to bring. Just the way there's people who brought water. There's people who, like, there's someone who just be in an Uber, throw water on the ground. And like, this is my contribution. There's someone who would give you, like, oh yeah, Shikai so moja. There's people like the person who actually made me go for my last Mandamano, this very recent one, sent me 100 bob and said, hey sir, I cannot make it for the protest for good governance, but this is my contribution. I was like, if I'm marching for nothing, I'm marching for this 100 bob. Yeah.
Yo. The story has taken a different
turn. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Because normally, when the people, so globally,
right,
World Health Organization, suicide rates for men, 75%.
Right.
Men.
Right.
Like we are doing badly.
Yeah.
And the men who commit suicide are men like you and myself.
Right.
Today I'm here, I laugh, I host people, I do whatever, then tomorrow, the way Robin Williams happened.
Yeah.
And many other people that I've known, that you're like, but alikuwa na vibe.
Right.
Like even we just lost the actor. What's his name? The actor we lost a few weeks ago. The Kenyan actor.
Oh, Charlie. Yes.
You see,
Yeah.
like the last video he did, he was leading guys on whatever.
We were together even at the march against femicide, yeah.
So what happens is we have a lot of men who are going through situations,
right,
and they are not talking. Either they're talking, but they're not being heard.
Right.
Like you, we've spoken for a while, and I've figured I'm not a professional,
right,
but I figured you have childhood trauma,
right.
When you were abused as a child and sexually assaulted,
right.
Somehow it hoovers around you,
right.
And then sometimes you feel life has no meaning.
Right.
You feel
right.
Because you are the epitome of your career. Like you're shining, you're doing what you love, you dress good, you show up. You can't say that, oh, unajua mimi, I can't do this, that's why.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see,
but
unaka chini, like now you're saying the Friday before the Manamano, you are trying to commit suicide. You blacked out with the news. I'm like,
no, quite literally, if I had not fallen unconscious, because I remember that time I don't smoke or drink. But that night I remember I was like, I'm going to smoke cigarettes and whatnot. And it was not at his degree to help me do a thing or whatever. But I was like, oh yeah, once this packet is over, so is my life. I was like, yeah, this is my exit strategy. I'm like, oh, because it's a thing I always kind of wanted to do. I was like, I thought smoking was cool. So that's what it was. And it's not even coming from a point of CGO pain or whatever. And that's why I'm like, I feel like it's a misfire by the brain. But you know, with experience you love it, but also with community. Because who would have known? Because if you found unconscious, at some point you would have moved, woken up from your sleep and tried to feel around and fallen down to the ground. So either way, it didn't have any positive outcome. And now I felt like, because there's also a lot of shame that people don't talk about when you recover from that. Because now friends have come into your house. I have like 10, 16 people in my house consistently. They want to wash your things, they want to cook for you, your parents are there, you've mixed friend groups, and now there's a lot of shame around it. While these people are coming from a good place, I'm like, what can I do to pay you guys back? Because I'm like, I need some space, to bounce back from it. But then again, people are like, oh, you know, you're on suicide watch. We cannot leave you alone as much. And me nakuanga kichwa ngumu, watu like kaza akisema atafanya kitu. But also respecting the profundity of them being around. So it was one of those things. So part of it, I was just like, luckily, maandamano came and I was like, I'm going to give back to this country. I was like, you guys stay there. Because I remember friends wanted to come. I was like, let's go. If you guys want to go for the demonstrations, I'm going to escort you. So I wore a stupid suit. I was like, needy, we'll get into the streets. I was like, oh yeah, let's go. If the first one was about my friends, I was like, if you guys want to go for Mandamano, we're going to stay together, we'll be safe, we'll demonstrate and whatnot. Then suddenly I appear in videos and I was like, I should not have worn that crappy suit. You know, those kinds of things. And you don't plan these kinds of moments. Yeah. But yeah, it can be quite something.
There is a... So I'm spearheading men's mental health awareness work.
Right.
So June is normally men's mental health awareness month.
Yes.
But not many people talk about it because as men, be strong, brain. So I started it.
Right.
It's not happened in Kenya before. I've never seen it.
Awesome.
So I'm doing men's mental health awareness work. It was to happen Juicy, but in June.
Yes.
But Uhuru Park was vandalized. Then we were rejecting the finance bill. Right. I was like, the government right now? Right. Yeah. I'm like, who guys couldn't wait? Then we have a big thing here.
Yes.
Then now we postponed it. So I'm doing it on 3rd of August.
Awesome.
At United Kenya Club.
Awesome.
Just State House Road, Apple.
Yes, Hospital.
Yeah. I would love you to come.
I mean, it would be nice.
I would love you to perform if you want to.
Yeah.
It's a free event. Yeah. It's not a profit-making venture. I just want us to meet there as men.
Yeah.
Then tutoke hapo after tumedance kidogo tumeperformiwa na few artists will come. Kenzo Matata said he wants to perform for free.
Awesome.
We have DJ Weezo who wants to come, MC Chris wants to MC for free, and a couple of other people. MC Abel wants to MC for free. So let them come through.
Yeah.
Then we walk around town.
Yes.
We come back. They just tell people, Niaje, men are hurting. We are lost.
Right.
We need help.
Right.
For example, there's someone who's watching this who probably going through the same situation. They don't know who to talk to.
Right.
Where to go.
Yes.
I don't know if you've gone through therapy.
Right. So for me, therapy has been a difficult experience because again, I intellectualize things very deeply. So the gap I've found is a lot of the therapists, no therapist is telling me anything that I'm not already telling my friends for free as a joke.
I'm the same problem.
Yeah, so they go like, I didn't find anyone who was smart enough until very recently when I got a person who just properly raruaed me.
You're like, yo.
And I was like, yes. I need to leave therapy knowing that, hey, I have something to think about. But a lot of the times I've walked into therapist rooms and they tell, so how does that make you feel? So what do you think this is about? So, you know, so there's this DS.
Preach, brother,
so
preach!
Like, it just doesn't work for me. I see people recommend therapists and I'm like, I've been to that particular office and no.
Preach,
but if it works, no, I mean, if it works for these other people, it works for them. But for some people, like, it needs to be like at a deeper intellectual level where you have to get me to do the actual work, because hakuna kitu yenye I have not tried to think myself out of. Yes, I have the theory, I have the reading, I've put in the hours, I know this basics. So now you have to give me something that's deeper. And then it can't also be a person who's too old, because if you're 60 and we also, it feels as if we have the same gap and I'm 26, you need to have watched at me with maybe 10 years so that I feel like maybe we could
You've lived around my sentence.
You know, in
my days when we were fighting for independence. Like, come on, bro. You guys didn't have cars.
Don't worry, it's called the post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's,
you know, when we were taken to the concentration camps,
yes.
the way we used to manage, we would stay for 3 months without food. We would sing Mau Mau songs. We're like, come on, bro.
Yeah, but a lot of therapy is inclined towards feeling, well, you know, when you feel like you're at a corner, it's because you do not know what the next decision I'm supposed to make. I feel like I'm powerless. So it's all about, you know, you hit the gym because there's no day you feel worse after the gym. Yes, the gym, those kinds of things that men need to do, being together and saying, oh yeah, there's all these things, but then there's also other mechanisms that we can bring together to make ourselves better.
I agree with you like 1,000%. I have a lot of unhealed childhood trauma that I've not dealt with until now. Me and my dad, it's out there. I've shared with a couple of people. We have history.
Yes.
And all the time, people tell me, go to the therapist, go there. So I tried.
Yeah.
But when you come from that, I'm like, man, nigga. Then I'm an overthinker.
Yes.
I'm like, that one, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What do you mean?
Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of that. And, okay, guys, it's starting to rain. So you might hear a couple of, but it's starting to rain.
Guardian Angel Longo and Leah.
Yeah.
It gets me all the time.
Yeah.
This man gets me all the time.
I don't know exactly. He's talking about it again. Yeah. So, like, I feel if you had the right therapist, and if you knew where to get the right therapist, and if the right therapist or the therapists that are there knew that now things are changing. Not the traditional way, ile kukaa na kitabu na kustadi, take me back through the journey, let's find you. I'm like, no, the problem. So if you had that, maybe it would be different.
It would have. It would have.
Because, you know, sad to say, we might be having this conversation now.
Yes.
Then 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 1 year from now, you might just do it successfully this time. And people go like, oh my God, he said this. And I'm like, guys, the fact that he said it was already a cry for help.
Right.
Like the relevant person could have reached out like, Obinna, listen, let me talk to Kasmuel. I know what to do. And we would have.
Right.
So I'd love you to come because the men that are suffering are too many.
Right, no, for sure.
My DM is crazy.
For sure.
From life issues, employment, sexually being abused, gender-based violence. We have baby mama dramas. We have all of them, and then the man is supposed to be strong.
Yes.
Then also we have people, they always say when a man lacks purpose, they distract themselves with pleasure.
No, absolutely, yes.
So currently there's a lady who's reaching out to me. I think she's the sister of OJ.
Yes.
OJ for Taidi.
Yes.
She's telling me OJ is worse.
Right.
Like alcohol, and he's on a bad situation.
Right.
So I'm trying to work around how I can also try and bring him on board. What I'm trying to do, and probably talk to Sonko, I'ma talk to the people. We take him to another rehab for about a year. Then now. But now you know what we don't know, we've not figured out why OJ is spiraling into that.
Right.
Anapenda pombe.
You know.
Mbona.
And addiction is very unforgiving.
Yes.
It's very unforgiving.
There's a reason. Now, if we don't find the reason, we might go to the therapist or whatever then. So like yours, we have to find the reason.
Right.
There's always that, like you know, you're an overthinker. You definitely know what makes you, bro, you drive.
Right.
How many times you've thought about I've had those moments where I tried when I was young.
Yeah.
I think like twice.
Yeah.
Then I've had those moments where you're going through something. You've said you're not going through a heartbreak.
Yes.
When you're going through a heartbreak,
Yeah.
normally when you get a proper heartbreak,
Yes.
bro, everything stops.
Right.
And you feel your life is pointless. When you're driving, you're just like, I can just swerve a little
Yes,
bit, and this thing will just be a wrap.
Yeah.
And then I have that moment where, okay, now what will I gain from this? Then who am I leaving behind?
Right.
Luckily, I have kids.
Right.
I don't know if you have kids.
None that have declared. That's why I have to be successful. I have to be successful.
Yeah, so be successful, so they declare.
Recently, Leona, people said that I was in, what was this? I was in my girlfriend's house in Ngara, Joyland Apartments, house number D4. Naomba, babe, if you're watching this,
Yeah.
leave the house. Please come back home. I'm like, the joy of having one girlfriend. I imagine two. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So normally, I like myself, I would have things that would hold me down.
Yeah.
Like me, my kids, they hold me down.
Absolutely.
Like I have moments where I look at them and I'm like, really? And I'm like, these people, I don't want them to go through the life I went through.
Right.
You see, then I've adopted 2 other kids. Then I have another orphanage that I'm managing and helping throughout. Then I interact a lot with kids.
Bro, you've won in life and you're doing it quite well.
Yeah.
You're doing it
Then
quite
also
well.
have men.
Yeah.
That I'm talking to, men that are brought under my wing.
Right.
Then I also have other women that are brought under my wing. I'm like, huyu anataka kusaidizi hapa. There's another lady who was got pregnant when she was young.
Unafungua lodging sema tu. Huwezi niambia ati other women have been brought under your wing.
No,
What do
see
you
your wing.
what do you mean?
No, see your wing. See your wing. No,
Okay.
you compare to those that brought to my bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there are those, but now. No.
Right.
So there's a young girl who got pregnant. I think she was from Kibera or something, and the mother was very abusive and the family to her and her child. So she came to a show I used to do called Character Development.
Right.
There's a show I used to do called Toxic Boyfriends, Toxic Girlfriends, then Character Development. We sat down, bro. I interviewed that story like this.
Yes.
I was like, I'm not gonna air this episode.
Yes.
And she needs help.
Right.
So we took her. Omosh found a house in Kangemi.
Right,
We rented a
right.
house for her with
Yes.
a toy.
Yes.
Took her to the hospital. There was a lot of other infections here and there. So every month, even this month,
Yes.
I pay her bills, and she's one of a few.
Man.
And her and her child, they're
Props to
okay.
you, props to you,
And
Obinna.
I even posted, I think I posted her on Obinna TV, on
Yeah,
this channel, on
right.
Obinna TV Extra, a while ago. I was like, this lady, because normally,
Yes.
when you mean well,
Yes.
people always find a way in the end to go like, oh, you mutually.
No, for sure.
So I
Yes.
was like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Omosh handles everything.
Right.
In African Trade Omosh ambia, oh, she's called Maureen.
Yes.
Maureen inafaa fanywe hivi, mtoye lifa hivi na hivi.
Yes,
Oh, Maureen
yes,
has
yes.
gotten this.
Right.
So we saw that.
Right.
So when I have those ones, I'm always like, if I'm not here,
Yes.
that means all these people are going to be lost. And what I
Right.
intend
Right.
is to leave a positive impact. I'm
Right.
like, I'll not.
Yes.
That's why even when I get like hate online or
Yes.
whatever, I'm like, it's fine. I can
Right.
take it,
Yeah.
provided these guys
These guys
don't have it.
Yeah.
So I also feel when you get that,
Right.
because now you know you're answerable to yourself.
Yes. Absolutely.
But when you get, let's say, maybe someone,
yes.
you'll be like, this person depends on.
Oh, for sure.
Then at least it will start. But it all comes
Absolutely.
down to men talking.
Yes.
Then the relevant stakeholders
Yes.
doing what is needed.
Right, right,
And then
right.
now we get, bro, like what I'll tell you, bro, try.
Yeah.
Try the best you can.
Kabisa,
We
kabisa.
can't lose another
Yes.
man. Not even now,
No,
not even
absolutely.
ever.
Yeah.
Like there are people looking up to you. Even I told you even before we went, I was like,
Right,
bro,
right.
I've seen videos of you, man, and
Yeah.
then the way you dressed.
Right.
I even asked you which cologne are you wearing. I'm
Yes.
like, you're smelling so nice.
Yes.
Imagine now tomorrow I'm like, what do you mean, Kasmuel?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, imagine the heartbreak, the disappointment.
Right.
We will be so lost. We're just like, so try.
Right.
We are gonna try, and the relevant people who
Yeah.
know what to do. I also don't know. I'm not a professional.
Right.
Reach out to me. My email is tvobinna@gmail.com. Let's see what we can do.
Right.
And on 3rd of August, kujeni
The
nyote.
walk, yes.
All
United
men
Kenya
come
Club, right?
through.
That's
Yeah,
right,
even
yeah.
women are invited. Show us your ways. We don't know how to talk. Like this conversation, me, I was gonna talk about your school,
Yes.
your music,
Yes.
and then mandamano.
Mandamano.
Let's reject.
Tuingie
Then
mandamano.
say tumeingia kwa therapy session.
yeah.
I'm like, my G. Okay.
Right.
Before
Usa.
tuingie kwa maandamano,
Yes.
wacha tuchukue commercial break. Wacha nichukue kopo la chai.
Naam.
Nipunge kopo la chai manake
Utashika
sisemi
huo
kitu.
msichana Mluya. Nani akufundisha kopo? What do you mean kopo?
Sinatembea na Mluya hapa.
all right.
Ndiposa.
Ah,
Ni moja wao.
Ilimradi. Okay. You declared. Yeah.
Yeah. Tunakuja kwenyu moja kwa moja.
Naam.
Tukiwa omena.
Wiu.
Yes. Tuko Samaki on Othaya Road. Of course, this is the best joint. You can come and sample best seafood in Nairobi. If you've never been here before, see this ambience and then one. And then after this one, also CK, play for me the video for Goldchild Media Institute so that they can know where to join if you want to learn media. You want to do what I do? Videography, photography, editing, color grading, lighting, sound engineering, Goldchild Media Institute. CK, run it. All right, the ones you've seen right in front of you are students from Goldchild Media Institute. It's an institution that teaches people what to do in the media space. You want to do videography, you want to do photography, you want to do anything on this space. Simusimame ni kama watu wa nini sasa. Hapa si HR bwana. Hii ni media inataka watu creative ni nini? Umeshika kamera, kama iko umeshikilia kamera ni nini? So, what are you doing? Videography, and photography. Or finally to change tune and photography. Videography and photography. Apple. Oh, okay. All right. They're all studying the same thing. So if you want to join, you should consider coming through to Goldchild Media Institute. They're in town. And on this show, Obinna Show Live, we always have, once in a while, we invite some students from the school to come through and get a glimpse of what goes on. You can see the lights. If you pan like this, you can see we have the lights this side. I wish we could pan around so you could see more of the things that are happening behind the scenes. So you need to study all of these things that are happening over here. It's not as easy, and also it's not as hard. Okay, it takes a little bit of discipline, a little bit of lessons here and there, the technical know-how. So consider joining Goldchild Media Institute. Ukuje ujoin hawa. Ujifundishe, si kujifundisha ku DJ tu peke yake. Welcome to Goldchild Media. All right, that's it. Goldchild Media Institute. That's the best place to go and study media. In the house tonight or this evening, I'm hosting Kasmuel McOure, and we are having a lot of conversations and things have taken a different turn. But now let's take it back where it was. Indeed. All right, let's talk about Mandamano. Yeah. I've seen you're getting a lot of heat.
Yes.
Why are you getting a lot of heat? I thought you were doing like the positive thing.
Yeah, me too. I cannot explain it because one time I was the people's darling, and then as the honest man said, we were the darling of the people. Where did the rain start beating us?
Where did the rain start beating you?
Yes, so personally I think...
you know.
Yeah. I think first part is when I went missing on Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
There was like a whole thing about how I was missing. And so I was missing and I came back on Thursday. Now, like I came back to my house on Thursday and immediately hit the streets. Guys were like, "Hey, what do you mean, Bana?" So I go back there and I'm super scared, one. And that day, police presence was super heavy still. And Nikuapo, this one time I even just taking an interview up in Nation, and they point at me and they lob a tear gas canister.
Oh, wow.
So like with the whole thing, I think somebody posts a clip of me on Al Jazeera. And then, yeah, after the whole thing, just I started catching heat. People were like, oh yeah, the man faked his G, faked an abduction, those kinds of things. And the story had just been watered down into all those kinds of things. And then, as if that was not enough, they bully me for that online, those kinds of things. And then now on Thursday, this past Thursday, I go into the street. So typically how I go for Mandamano is I go alone. I do not plan with anyone. I do not do that. There's an app people used to say at it allows you to communicate. I don't like it when I go to... Yes, where people can like walkie-talkie.
How old am I?
Hey. Hii inaitwa Gen Z. Where watch mambo?
You guys,
I think it's called Zello or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like a walkie-talkie thing. They're telling you, oh yeah, mazee Kenyatta haven't nikubaya. So kwambia aka iskumoto roda ngala imeshika, you know, those kinds of things.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so I didn't like it. Wewe ulienda tu hivyo. So now even hata mimi napenda kwenda maandamano. Napendanga tu nikitoka naingia tukipata wanarusha imenipata. Sitaki ingine kwa sababu I feel like wataniuzia uoga. So I get in there and get in the streets and they lob a canister. I think they repaired it, but they pursued a window. But now this last Thursday, I get into the street, and so normally I start from Kimathi area and then I'll walk into Arambe and then Bizunguka, the whole circuit to just CBD. Then I get there and this doctor comes towards me, and she shouts, "Kaskazini, Kaskazini!" So I'm doing an interview. And then she starts shouting. So I stop doing the interview and I'm like, oh yeah, so what's that about? Because I'm in the total and the thing is at the mosque. And so she starts shouting and the only part of the video that people share is that part where there's shouting. And I think I said, "Sasa atoki jam, so utafanya nini?" So now we talk and then the team lead now comes and tells me, hey, listen, you know, if people gather here, the police had threatened us and they wanted to lob canisters, and so that's what that was about. But she felt like I think she had been reading stuff about me online. Because she came with vendetta. Because remember, Medics for Kenya is run by like some people I know and friends, and we had agitated for the release of Dr. Austin, and I've said this previously before. So there's no way I'm disrespecting the medics and whatnot. So I was even like, so why didn't the rest of the fraternity came out? Because they were just there. We were doing it at the total, and even the employees at the total were like, hey, mbona unafanya hivyo? And people, even if you hear the crowd, they're like, we songa enda huko hivyo. But now one of these people who now people are currently decamping, saying that they've betrayed us, ran with the story, and so she started talking about it. And in my head, so I keep on agitating and I'm going, and part of the people who hate me were the media, because consistently I've been harassed by plainclothes officers. Even one time, I remember I was hidden behind the freezer of a popular restaurant in Tao. It was that bad, and I've even like recording plainclothes people who are unidentified. Now this one are not even plainclothes, and they're well armed, and they're just terrorizing people. So anyways, that clip now goes, and now the narrative is this guy disrespects medics. I've never had the end of it, but in my head, in my heart, and my mind, I'm very clear about whatever it is that I was doing. So because people didn't have context for the thing, I think it got out of hand. And now adding to a person which already people are saying, well, you know, you faked this thing, and no, so everyone's just like, oh, it's a sellout. And I'm like, what exactly have I said that is hurtful to the movement? People are just talking about other things because they were like, oh yeah, his actual name is Kasmuel McOure. He's actually a kissy from what? He's whatever. Like, it was a lot of allegations. And I'm like, is this what we've reduced the movement to? It feels almost as if that people are always baying for blood.
Each other.
Yes.
We are fighting each other. Now we're losing direction.
Kabisa.
I've seen it, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, the enemy was the finance bill.
No, kabisa.
The enemy was how the country was being run.
Yeah, it's a bad governance.
Bad governance.
Yeah.
But now we're turning to it, bro. I've seen what has happened to a couple of people who are, including Cairo.
Yeah.
I think Cairo said he's not going to go to the
Right.
street again.
Right.
Oh, you're a sellout.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
guys, we're losing the direction.
Yeah.
Myself, before I came on the street,
Yeah.
I was a quarter here.
Kila mtu alikuwa tu
And when the
like,
finance bill came, I was the first one to bring Bago in, and
Yes.
we sat down here.
Yes.
And we analyzed it.
Yes.
And we spoke about this tax,
Right.
this whatever, and this. And I said, I rejected that. No, you've not come. I'm like,
it's almost as if people want you to be in actual danger. People
Thank you.
want, and even if you, and that's why I'm like, even if you lie down, they'll say you've not lied down
Not
flat enough. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, it feels as if it's that. But there's a thing which,
my sound is gone. Yeah. Guys, let me know if the sound is okay. Let me know if the sound is okay. Let me know if the sound is okay.
yeah, they say it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Sound is good. Sound is good. We're back.
Yeah, so there's something,
Yeah.
I think it was Giuliani said yesterday or today, that this thing is a marathon. Everybody bring your finest skill. It's a thing which we usually see when we do potlucks with my friends. You don't ask a person who, a vegan like me, for example, to carry meat. Like, wait, Chiki, do that stir fried rice that you do, you bring it. So I feel like, and that's the whole thing I kept on saying during Mandamano, where I thank everybody for what they were doing. There's people, returning officers, kuna mgodhe anarudishanga hizo vitu huwezi amini bro. Consistently mkishaingia hivi ashakutana na canisters 4. Niko tu like bro, finyilia tu hapo. Finyilia hapo. I'm good with crowds and stream mobilization. Mimi nitafinyilia hapo. Those guys who bring water. There's a guy alikuwa tu kwa corner doing a thing which seems very thankless, but akutu like ni uchungu, shika maji. Gave people water. Kazi yake tu niyo hapo. It's not that anyone's job is more important.
That's true.
So, and I feel like that's the thing which people usually feel like if someone's getting whatever attention. And because I think for me, this agenda has to be set very clearly. We cannot waste any chance to remind that this is not anti-government protests. We're not asking for anarchy. We're asking for this is pro-governance, pro-good governance marches. We can crystallize them into 5 key areas. We want food. We know our food basket is not empty. Food and water, nutrition and water. Education. Make this thing affordable. Post teachers. Because there's somebody whose airtime allowance is much more than the gross basic salary of a JSS teacher. That is on education. On health, once we are well fed and studied, we need a proper functional health system. And you've seen people like Hanifa do so much with a couple of millions that now is questioning, why then do you mean NHIF is not working? Why do we need to migrate to SHIF? Then after that, we want meaningful work. This thing for unataka police, good conduct, is very expensive. Renewing an ID, very expensive, takes a lot of time. Stop that. We don't want to go and work in other countries as domestic laborers. Not that there's anything bad with working as a domestic laborer, but if you're saying you're going to do that digital superhighway, let us also go. Because, for example, if I'm going to work there's a job I was supposed to do outside the country just before it started that I stopped even applying for. I was like, let me focus on this thing now. Expatriates are paid 3 times more than what the locals are paid. Where as a Kenyan, if you leave, does that happen to you? As a domestic worker, those kinds of things. Then the issue around land and its ownership. Why should one person have millions of acres when people are suffering? Why should we grab public spaces, playing for children? Those things, why should we just be in a concrete jungle, which in turn contributes to all these kinds of things in society? Consistently, I've been saying, whatever camera I find, these agendas will have to agenda. We will have to articulate them. And I'm telling everyone, you get in front of your phone. Not all of us can maybe make it to Obinna Show live.
True story.
But wherever it is, Mazi, your mama mboga, tell her, this is why to go streets. We don't that you want to ban the country down. Because we've realized these people are very peaceful. Peace is our peace in our brains. That, the leaderlessness, the tribelessness, those kinds of things. Those are part of the things which I've said I will ensure these agendas are said and well spoken. There's people who can do it on Twitter Spaces. There's people who can do it on TikTok Live, Facebook Live, IG Live, stories, those kinds of things. And then there's also people who can do it in mainstream media. Right now, it's my turn. If I do it, it might fade away or not. But every single opportunity we get, we articulate these points very clearly, because you'll find politicians hijacking these talking points and taking them to Bunge or Senate. And you see, they still don't care. It's just talking points for them to look cool, but then they still pass these things behind our backs.
True story. That part for talking points to look cool, they're doing it a lot.
Yes.
Now, we agree with the Gen Zs, like...
Yes.
Do you know if they follow the Constitution?
Yes.
I heard you say that on another interview,
right.
and I agreed with you.
Right.
We will not be having this conversation.
We wouldn't need to.
Like if we just follow the Constitution.
Do you think being with a target G on Mandamano or being hated on online is my dream? I want to play music, I want to teach, I want to play with children as an educator, do my finance things, and be happy. But now I have to be in this situation, taking all this heat, and still somebody wants to play politics with our livelihoods. It's gotten to the point where now we've lost lives. It's no longer normal. There's a person who's never gonna walk again, bro. It's not business as usual. We cannot take this for granted. That's why I'm like, whatever people say, I will get in front of, bro. Hata nikiona sijui tourists wanapiga selfie.
Huko hapo. Remember.
Reject finance bill. Like whatever this message, we will fight for good governance in this country.
You see, we've lost over 41 people.
Yes.
And the government is downplaying it.
Yeah.
They are saying it's just about 20 people,
yes.
you know,
Yeah.
Then nobody's really owning up to it,
right.
and making good.
Yes.
And they're not remorseful.
Yes.
You see. And as is, you know the conversation is being turned where hawataki kulipa tax.
Yes. But like, what do you mean? Ukinunua mkate unafanya nini? Ukinunua anything that has VAT, what are you doing?
That's a conversation.
Yes.
Hawataki lazima mulipe tax. I'm just like,
we're saying account for the money you're spending. Sisi hii generation ndio imetoa a line item in the budget inaitwa confidential expenditure. The generations before us just took that thing sitting down. Tumesema tutaki kuona hii budget line inaitwa confidential expenditure.
Si tulichukua yote na tukanyamaza.
We do not want to see all these unconstitutional offices. That's why I'm saying you do not need a space. We do not need to have street dialogue. If you just did your job, mimi singekuwa kwa streets.
Yep.
I'm very happy not to be. Yeah, I'm very happy not to be on the streets.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing because now there's it could be an expectation or whatever that's played to it, but it also kind of messes up with your mental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
There's an
absolutely.
expectation. I saw you at Uhuru Park.
Yes.
And I think guys were making noise. They were doing
so I feel like Uhuru Park, there was two aspects of it when I met with the people.
Yeah.
Again, also, it's just, I feel like the negative aspects usually, they fly faster. Yeah.
That's true.
Because nobody has shared videos of when we were dancing. We had such a great time huko nyuma. And so there's friends who are just like, hey, Maze, good job, brought me onto this side. And one of the people who was hosting was just like, oh yeah, come and just, you could close the show and do that kind of thing. And so for me, that was, it wasn't heartbreaking. It was one of those things I usually say, fail fast and cheaply. Fail early, fast and cheaply. And so for me, it was just, oh yeah, a perfect understanding that, okay, maybe you're not necessarily, because it was not everyone as well. And also the thing that people were protesting is because, hey, Obinna alikuwa ametoka stage bana. Right after, wasea wataki ngoma ishe, but then time also has to nini. So it felt like, what do you mean you're bringing a speech? Let a speech say it wataka ngoma. Because, you know, eventually people went and partied in town. It was a good time. But of course, a lot of these things, when people do not have context, when
then our media houses, they know how to. Negative news.
Sound bites. Because that's
sound
what
bite
sells.
Ndio.
Yes.
Songe nayo.
Yes. Number 11 will shock you.
So you were abducted?
Yes. Tuesday night. Tuesday night I was missing. Called my family wachiliwad because there was a lot of heat on socials and whatnot on Wednesday. Then I called my folks, but they didn't even believe it. Called my dad. I was like, hey, Maze, I'm not sure if I'm safe or this is just a game, so I'm gonna go into hiding. So I went into my mentor's, stayed the whole of Wednesday into Wednesday night.
You went to?
One of my mentor's house.
Okay.
Wednesday night into Thursday, and he was like, oh yeah, the president even spoke, it seems as if it's going to be safe and people are going to go back to the streets. Their advice was, you shouldn't go back to the streets, just take some time, cool down. But mimi ni nani? Niliingia hivi nyumbani, my people are super happy to see me. Like, please kaa chini. I was like, get me a fresh, this is what I was wearing, I think. Get me a fresh suit, got into town. Because in my head, I'm like, the cause must go on.
Okay.
We didn't come this far just to come this far.
Okay.
You know.
So this part where you abducted?
I was taken by men I did not know.
How? Where? Where were you?
So Tuesday evening. So we did pakapanya in Tao, whatnot. Wizunguka, people breach parliament.
Oh, it was the day for the parliament.
Yes.
Yeah.
People breach parliament, and it's crazy. The whole country is euphoric. Even when I was leaving town, I told guys, please escort me with borders. So take the other borders to Ninini, because the whole time, even there's clips online where you'd see there's a guy who was just like, hey, Mazekoni, who's this guy? Consistently, I was shielded by people. Like, hawezi kufanyia kitu tukiwa hapa, hawezi kufanya. It's the people that helps me.
Yeah.
So now I'm leaving, and then I'm going to Cathedral, and then I come out, we do a little like Comrade Power on this other side, because you know they barricaded it up to around Serena area. Then there's a clean water truck, we're up there, Comrade Power, nini. But also the medical facility at Jamia had too many people, but then the medical facility at Cathedral had capacity. So I was like, oh yeah, bring other people to this facility because it's okay. Then the time people are breaching, so I leave with my friend and I'm like, I'll need you to take this car because I don't want it to be, I want you to be my decoy. So you'll take the car, we'll pick it somewhere here, and then you'll take the car and you take it into our thing. So you mislead people and whatnot. And so we do
It's like you knew you were being followed.
What do you mean? It's like I knew. I'd been like consistently I was being harassed. Kabisa, throughout this whole process, especially after the first time I meet the headlines, consistently being harassed by plainclothes. It's the people, it's just the fellow youth who are just like, apana. Anytime I would ingia, it would just be like, 6 people out of nowhere would show up and be like, oh yeah, where mazee tuko na wewe, those kinds of things. Then it's time that I would run and hide into a crowd. Those kinds of things, I'd run into a hotel or whatever, those kinds of things. So I leave Cathedral with this friend. I tell him to drop me somewhere in like Karen area. And then I was like, I will, because I also, now when we're leaving, there's a white pro box with 4 armed men inside. So normally I would go up Ngong Road, and then, so that when you get to that, is it past Yaya, you have the route that goes into Kibra, then you have
Ngong that's
Road.
Prestige.
Yes. So going, normally my route would be this one. So I go, and I'm just like, no, swab, let's go into this other one. So we're driving, speeding, nini. I'm like, once we get around this area, I want to drop you, and then I'll go. And I was like, oh no, that doesn't sound like a good idea. You take the car from here and whatnot. I'm like, oh yeah, you take the car and go. So I was there, I'm chilling, it's evening, and I'm trying to call my
You're chilling where?
Now, Karen area.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
not in the super mini center, but Suko Kulendani, around Bogani-ish situation. I don't know what to call that area.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know what to call it, but I will not call it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm chilling like this, and I'm trying to make calls. I can't make direct calls to the number, so I have to call using these other private apps, like in a Signal, like in a whatnot. Yeah, and then just as I'm chilling around this area, an identified man just took care with, first of all, it was, as we were driving, I thought, so now I'm paranoid. Anything to do that's tinted, I'm just like, I don't know if these are the guys and these are the guys and whatnot. Yeah, but then now this guy leaves me. Most of it was, I think, paranoia, but then I got caught by some men who did not identify themselves. And they took me in for, like I said, Tuesday, basic questions. So unajiona nani? Mnatoa pesa wapi ya kufanya hii kitu? Who's funding this thing? Who's the leader?
Oh, wow.
Those kind of stupid questions. Mtatuona, utatujua. Not much interaction. It's just those things for just the mental anguish of, so what are these people going to do to me next? Because you're like, again, you have said publicly that you're suicidal. So, this could be pinned on what you said.
Yeah.
You could very easily just tokea. If you tokea dead, they will just say, the man was suicidal, he was found dead in a thing.
Yeah.
So that was it for me mentally, and then people made
Napandisha voice kidogo.
Yes.
Juu hizi popcorn
No
zetu.
worries.
Nasikia wanazita popcorn.
Guardian Angel ameanza tena. In fact, gets me all the time. Yeah.
Hizi popcorn zetu kidogo zimezidi.
No
Yeah,
worries.
guys, it's raining, and of course, yeah.
Right. So people make noise, and nini the whole Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm dropped in.
Ulipelekwa wapi?
Sasa, that part I cannot account, but I know where I called my mentor from, because I was blindfolded the whole time.
You're blindfolded?
Yes.
Walikufinya?
Yeah, nothing too serious. Nothing too serious. But on Wednesday, around noon times, early morning into noon, I apparently get the chance to escape around Otiende area.
You got the chance to escape?
Yes, because even when I texted Faith, I was like, hi, Cha, I'm safe, I've escaped. Like, tutakutana na wewe. Tutakunini. Because those are the last things which I remember. I'm like, oh yeah, tutakutana na wewe siku ingine. So it's one of those kinds of things. And so now I'm panicking, I'm proper paranoid, but I'm also feeling, hey, mazeka stero. I called this guy and told him, Bana, get me a car, get me Siko safe, Siko nini. Showed up at the other side, took me to his home, featured me in one of his private rooms. He's like, is your phone being needed? Check it out. There was some fish activity on my phone as well. And there's one of those two things for you do *29# star whatever hash. Those things for that will go in the USSD anti-tracking things. And like do that. Take off your SIM card. Will drive you to a different place for you to do that. So that's the last cell tower that you only need. And then now we come back to the house and like you're going offline. You just stay. Put the phone in the safe. Chilling. Whatever president does his thing. Thursday, come back, hit the streets. Hey. What do you mean you've come back and hit the streets? Because apparently everyone who came back and akanyamaza.
Oh.
Yeah, everyone who came back.
What walirudi na uoga?
Yeah. I'm like, hey, this is my newfound purpose. So be it.
Yo.
Yeah.
Mnatusikia kweli? Hebu guys let me know kama mnatusikia because rain kidogo imekuwa mingi hapa. But I thought that the rainy season was over. I was even comfortable. I think we should get in our space. Tuingieni kwa ile kona yetu. What do you guys think? We have a corner there that we go into. Venye leo tuko na ma-interview moto. But for now mnatusikiza. So far so good. Okay. Waja tunaenda tukirap up. Okay. Let's talk about the movement.
Right.
What's happening now.
Right.
How do you see it ending? How do you picture it ending? And is it gonna end?
It will end. It will end for sure, but it will end in good governance. Okay. It will end in tears of any corrupt officials. It will end in tears of people who thought that they can squander government resources. But it will end in our victory. I'm very sure. That is my analysis of the movement. Because remember, anyone could have a vision. Anyone has a vision for this movement. But anyone who has a vision that does not contribute to this movement, we don't care about. Okay. So you could stay with us or not with us. But I know we will push for this thing. We will clean up the country.
Okay.
We will clean up Kenya. I'm determined. There's people around me are determined to do it. The youth of the country, if you've seen them, man, these people are determined to do it. I know it will end in a positive outcome for the youth of our country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe that a couple of our people are being bought?
It's possible, bro. The government has weapons. The government has money. The government can buy brains. The government has the biggest propaganda machines. So of course there's people who are being bought. The people who are being bought. But I can't speak to that because I've not been bought. And I do not intend to, because it is my firm belief that once you touch a politician's money, the world will know about it in good time, and you will always have to toe the line. You consistently have to toe the line. I believe, for sure, we cannot think that the government is just sitting and waiting for us to take it home. Yeah.
Haya. Last question. Why doesn't Gen Z movement have a leader?
Because leaders, especially at this point, leaders could lead to the death of the movement. So now imagine if one of the leaders, we said expressly that Obinna is a leader, and Gava comes for Obinna, gives you 100 mic. Akwambie utatoka hapo useme hata msiset down, msizime kitu, kila mniga waneni yenye kwa hapa na uishie. The movement can be, at this point, it can be very easily galvanized. But if, for example, I purport to be whatever, and I am bought, they just put me aside, the movement goes on. If another person is bought, they put them aside, the movement goes on. If you saw how people breached parliament, that's the day I knew this leaderlessness thing is the strength. Because there's people who try to say, don't occupy, it's going to be a bloodbath. Bro, the people were like water. It was like a flood, and people just mwagikaed over the police, and people breached into parliament, and I was just like, viva to the movement, viva. So this leaderlessness thing, the people who are telling you, oh, you should have a leader, them with their leaders, what do they do for the country? The people who are shouting at Kenyans, telling us, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. I told you that this is what you're supposed to do. What have they done? This leaderlessness thing is uncomfortable. It allows people to hold each other to very high standards, but it also allows that if somebody decomes, we ignore them. You know, I think for me, right now, it's the perfect thing for us to do.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The part for Uyu Akikwa corrupted, this one has been compromised.
They were not our leader.
Because if there's one person they can get, either they buy them, ama wafanye ile kitu. Then movement inabaki bila leader. Tuna mtu wa kutuambia jam.
Saizi hata wewe usipo tweet about it, if I say at you, oh guys, I'm taking a social media break for my mental health, sitarudi nipate ati ilikwama. It will still go on. It will still go on. And that's the beauty of this thing. Nobody, wewe lamba tu glucose urudi, lakini tunaendelea.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming through, bro.
Thank you, man.
We've had our conversation. CK,
Yes.
it's been how long? It's been over an hour plus.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Been over an hour plus. So
Oh.
if you're just tuning in, there's so much that you've missed up on Yuma. Go back to the beginning, get to know the guy
Right.
behind the guy.
Right.
And then now after that one, now you come back to this other, good governance conversation.
Yes.
You learn a lot. There's so much that we've covered. I can see also there are people here who are saying, justice for Kiswahili. Trust me, Kiswahili, he can speak it fluently. Like it's one of his strongholds.
Naam.
Ama mnataka tuanze mgagana upwa.
Ali wali mkavu.
Yes. You see. So there's so much that we've covered that you've not checked, so kindly check it. Today is going to be an interesting day. I still have a couple of guests that I'm hosting today.
Yeah.
I have Rosie. You remember ule house help mwenye alikuwa akitoka ni majuu ama ni wapi, watoto waanza kumlilia wataki hata parents wao. She's in the house.
Awesome.
Akuku Danger is in the house.
Nice.
Amekuja na Sandra.
Yes.
Baby wake na baby wangu pia ako hapa. Saa mambo inaenda kitaeleweka. Kabuda is in the building. Atakuja tujue hizo madanza zake za Kabuda hapo anaendanga na anaanguka nayo vizuri. Kabuda is in the building, and also CS Murkomen is in the building. He's gonna sit here, we're gonna hold him accountable. Hizo maswali zote mnataka kujua juu ya transport na nini. Vitu Michuki alifanya right that Murkomen afanyi right. Hizo mapesa sijui alipatwa nazo wapi. Hizo masaa amevaza pesa ngapi hapa. So let your friends know you get that bundle. Si naomba wale wa kubarokot mubaro mvua jamani. Mvua inatupeleka hivi inakuwa complicated. All right? But we're getting there. Thank you so much my bro for coming through.
Brother.
Keep doing what you do.
I will.
If you love it, do it.
Do it.
And the fact that you're also fighting for the country, now that's beyond you.
Yes.
Keep doing it, bro.
Absolutely.
Pia mimi niko hapa pia mimi na support venye najua.
Asante
Iko tunge
sana.
kwa ground mimi niko na nyinyi.
Thank you so much, Obinna.
Good governance.
Yay.
Thank you so much, my G.
Bro. Thank
Keep
you very
winning,
much.
keep winning.
Asante sana, as you too as well.
Asante,
Alright, thanks for
asante.
having me.
I'm seeing you guys in a short while with the next guest. Wacha to strategize. Tuone kama tasonga pale, tasonga huko ndani ama tutaipiga tu hapa na mvua. I'm seeing you guys in a short while.